this morning, but I'm very much particularly excited about the guests that we have here this morning. I'm going to introduce them shortly. Let me run through the topics again. More than 200 feared dead after plane crash, and also Bahamas plane crash, particularly the one that happened in India. Bahamas cabinet ends 1.3 billion waste management Zoomlion monopoly, and YEA contract will not be removed. Government gives shutdown radio stations 30-day amnesty. And finally, we'll be looking at nurses demanding 588 million full funeral allowance from government. And these are the topics we'll be looking at. But let me introduce my guests this morning. This morning I have here with me Dr. Ramsey Inusa. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, OHEMAA, and good morning to your revered listeners out there and viewers. I like your outfit, I must say.
Oh, thank you.
Today you're in your full Pan-African regalia.
I am. Thank you very much. I also have here Rick Star Ni-ama. I always miss that. Ni-ama Amafiu. Ni-ama Amafiu. Good to see you, Rista. It's been a long time. Rista tells me he had a short vacation, and we'll talk about that later. But also seated is the one, the only Kwame Owusu Danso, Esquire. It's good to see you, sir. It's been a long time. Been a very long time. Because of your trip.
Your trip. In this economy, you can afford to fly in business first class to go and enjoy your life and come back. It's not easy. You really paid your dues.
But he didn't mention the class he traveled with.
This one will not fly economy.
But anyway,
thank you. Never fly economy. It's not like me and you.
I used to fly economy.
You used to. See?
I used to fly economy.
And MPP.
I still fly economy.
That's where everybody starts from.
Yeah.
We are still there. And I run the baby.
No, you see, you are doing long distance. I read on Facebook somebody saying that poverty, he used the word, because those days when he was flying economy, he was saying that was for him, after you are all in the plane, you land at the same time, until he flew business and he saw the difference. That even though you are all in the plane, there's still a difference between the economy. So
Anyway.
It's not really about the luxury, about it's about your comfort, and especially when you're doing a long distance.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Let's go straight into the conversation for the morning. But for our viewers, please be reminded to watch us live on Facebook, and also you can be a part of the conversation by sending in your submission on the number displayed on your screens. Let's kick it off with the international story, which happens to be an unfortunate one, and it features on page 5 of today's edition of the Daily Guide newspaper. It says more than 200 people are feared to have died after a plane bound for London crashed into a residential area shortly after taking off from an airport in India's western city of Ahmedabad. Images from the scene showed thick black smoke rising up into the sky after the Air India plane crashed, with part of the aircraft pictured resting on top of a building. Other images showed scorched trees and a fire-blackened building, with first responders hosing down the area. The city police commissioner told Associated Press that were thought to be no survivors from the crash plane, which was carrying 242 passengers and crew members. However, the CEO of Air India, Campbell Wilson, said in a statement that injured passengers had been taken to local hospitals. Now, the report goes on and on, but we've also had stories trending on various news platforms, and I'm told this morning that there's only one survivor, a single sole survivor, which I just immediately said that this person will be traumatized their entire life. I don't think they'll ever.
You may not want to fly.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever want to fly again. But I think this is more like chipping in one or two to, you know, solidarize with, you know, the whole world and, you know, the families of these victims. I start with you, Dr. Ramsey.
Good morning once again, and good morning to Mr. Ni Amatefio and Niama Amafio, and good morning to my my lost brother, who I just found him here. And very good morning to Senior Comrade Kwesi Pratt and your team here at Pan-African Television, and to all members of the Movement for Change. OHEMAA, I was met with this sudden news of this Air India crash yesterday. And as a person who has been an aircraft enthusiast, I mean, I remember growing up as a child, I wanted to be a pilot. That was my first dream. I wanted to be a pilot. And even during my high school days, there used to be this video game called the Flight Simulator by Microsoft. And you would always see me on my laptop trying to fly planes, different planes. So I got to read more about aircrafts, know the dynamics, and know how aircrafts take off. The sudden incident is something that civil aviation critics have raised concerns about the airworthiness of Boeing's latest aircrafts. We quite remember some years ago, a same tragic incident happened in Ethiopia, where the 737-8 MAX plane also had such fatal incidents. The American regulators are really losing the trust of industry players, because it's like most fatal air crashes now are swinging towards their products, right? And I quite remember a documentary by Al Jazeera by an undercover journalist, and you could tell that in the scenes of that documentary, they interrogated workers or engineers of Boeing within their facility on their new aircraft, which was the 787 Dreamliner. And the workers secretly admitted that they would never fly an aircraft that they were building. I should tell you something. And, you know, in an industry where people are looking at how they can reduce costs, especially post-pandemic, etc., airworthiness becomes a secondary concern to them, especially when you have a system that is highly capitalist in ideology, right? And so we can only pray for the souls of the departed ones, and the one that survived. I mean, it's a miracle to survive such an aircraft. And I also was telling you earlier on, you know, it is very, very unlikely to survive an air crash when it's taking off, especially when it's in the sky, because it's highly packed with fuel, right? And the engines are at full throttle during takeoff. And so with such incident and having one survivor, I think it's a miracle. And we would like to hear more of the story behind his survival. And we would always hope that these airlines, especially also in Ghana, should take some form of precautions. For example, I flew a certain airline in Ghana some couple of weeks ago. Now, internal domestic airline, and I would not want to mention the name because I don't have time to go to court. But what I can tell you is that from the little knowledge I have from the aviation industry, when an aircraft's paint is coming off, right, it affects aerodynamics, right? And when I landed from this airplane, I could see at the belly and on the sides, the paints were coming off. So, and I looked at the certificate. You know, they put an airworthy certificate right at the door of the pilot's cabin, yeah, the cockpit. And you could see that, I mean, why would a plane which has its paint coming off be airworthy in the first place? So this is a question for our regulatory agency in Ghana, that they need to really investigate what I'm talking about. I will not mention the airline name, as I have said, due to certain legal reasons, but the aviation regulatory authority has to go in there to make sure that the people of Ghana have a very sanitized aviation industry. We haven't had crashes. I don't think there's any sort of crash domestically in Ghana yet. But all I can say is that we pray for the departed souls, and we hope that this occurrence will not happen in the future. And we hope that these manufacturers would prioritize the safety of lives rather than trying to cut corners and reduce costs and maximize profits.
Thank you very much.
Let me say a very good morning to Kwame. It's been a while I saw him. And let's, what do you say? Well, may the souls of the departed rest in peace. And you know, when a crash like this happens, if you frequent aeroplanes, you know that some people travel the whole family in one flight. You have mother, father, children all in the plane. So when there's such a crash and there's just one survivor, it goes to tell you, you may have lost a whole family in the incident. They are gone for good. There may not be any survivor, so it's sad, it's worrying. It also puts some fear in those of us who frequent. You know, the first time I flew the Dreamliner, you know, it's a very smooth plane. It was an Ethiopia airline. I flew from Accra to Ethiopia and back, but then it was on my way to Philippines for my regular fisheries activities. And it was such a smooth flight, such a very beautiful plane. But you see, safety is everything. From the narration, it is also said that the captain is a 22-year-old experienced captain, having flown together with a co-pilot for over 9,000 hours. So that means that is not just an ordinary pilot who was learning.
Incompetent.
Yeah, his competence was never in doubt. So it means that there may be something wrong with the system that had to be checked. When it happened with the other plane, they basically hanged all the planes and then they worked on them. I don't know what's happening, but sometimes when you even see Boeing, you begin to get worried the rate at which they are crashing. But it has happened. God knows why. We only pray that whatever they need to do, they must do it to make sure that their planes are safe. Because you see, if you imagine yourself in the air, a lot of miles up there in the sky, and then But the danger is when the plane is taking off, and normally when it's landing. We saw one just here when it's not a passenger plane, the cargo plane, it ran off its runway and ended up at 37, causing damage to properties. That one hadn't gone up so much, so there were basically and it was carrying cargo. There were casualties. Yeah, those who were off the road, but those who were in the. This one landed on somebody's house, and that area. And if you saw it, because the aviation fuel, the kerosene is so light, it burns so easily. So if you saw the flame that went up and the dark smoke, and just like when gas is burning, because the fuel is light, I'm sure it may have, and you can imagine, they're only talking about the casualties in the plane. They are yet to talk about the casualties in the residential apartment area. Because the house that the plane landed on, if there are people living in the house, they may as well be in danger. And the entire area, even, I'm an environmental person. Animals and the environment all comes to play. Well, because it landed on some rooftop, you may not know, but it's not the best. We don't expect these things to be happening. Because you spend a lot of money to buy a ticket and then you fly. The least they can do is to make sure that the plane is safe. Because it will be very, very difficult. It will only take the grace of God for anybody to survive an air crash. It will only take the grace of God. Because the moment the plane takes off, it's above all the buildings. So imagine falling off even a 4-story building. So the plane takes off and it's above 20, 30-story buildings, and then it comes crashing. It's not easy. They will give you all the safety tips you need in the plane, but those safety tips do not save anybody in an aircraft when the plane is crashing. Even if it crashes into the sea, you may not survive it. They will tell you the door will turn into a floater, but those are things they tell you to make you feel safe and comfortable. But I'm telling you, when the plane is crashing even into water, you may not survive it. And even vehicles, when they are driving and they crash they are on the ground, when they crash on the motorway, how many survivors do we get? Then you're talking about a plane that is in the air. So the International Civil Aviation Authority and all those who have responsibility towards ensuring that aircraft are safe for people in this modern age with all the technology, you need to have aircraft that are safe enough for people. You cannot say that when people were flying jumbo jet those days, they were not experiencing this type of crashes. Jumbo jets that were supposed to be old. Ghana, we use ours for a restaurant. They use it there. But
I hear it's going to be revamped, the Ghana Airways.
No, but we use our DC-10 for restaurant. Tanti something restaurant. Yeah, but it's not a very good story to hear. I can imagine what families are going through by now, wailing and weeping. Some of the people on the aircraft, maybe they are the breadwinner. India has a lot of poverty. So some of them may be in the UK and be working and be sending money back home. Now people may have lost their breadwinners entirely. Some are husbands who are taking care of their children. Some may be visiting their families in the UK and all of that. It's not a very good story. We can only sympathize with them and pray that those who are responsible for our safety in the air will do so with all the diligence that is required.
Right. Thank you very much, Rista. Let me come to you, Kwame Osudas.
Oh, thank you very much. Let me also greet my brothers and greet you as well, OHEMAA. I was just passing through, and I noticed you were you had only two wonderful brothers on the show. I said, well, let me just sit in. Well, I think they've said it all. I do not have any knowledge in aviation. So one cannot sit here and conjecture as to what may have caused the flight, the plane to crash. But I would just look at it from the perspective of, life in general. I've read articles that people have posted on social media pointing to a particular family, a husband, a wife, and 3 children. The husband having lived in the UK for a while, trying to get clearance to bring the family to the UK. The mother being a medical doctor who is very popular in the area within which she lives, having retired 2 days prior. And, in excitement, going to start a new life abroad, expecting that life will be kind to them, saying their goodbyes, to their family members wishing them luck and praying for prosperity for them. Their children, in full excitement, knowing that, they are sojourning into another life of maybe progress and elevation. Taking their last selfie on the flight, sending it to family members, alerting family members that they had safely boarded, expecting to return. To go back to the UK on one-way ticket, because they were never going to return back. To return to India. So one-way ticket, and all of a sudden, flight crashes, dreams dashed, dreams of a better life turned to ashes. I believe these stories are only telling of how fragile life is, and terrifyingly so, that you may think that you have all the time in the world. You may think that you are waiting for an opportune time to spend time, quality moments with your loved ones. You may think that you are preparing the grounds for some, better expression of love and care, and spending quality moments with your loved ones. But time is indeed, or life is indeed fleeting. And so what you may desire to do tomorrow, if you have the strength and the courage, do it now. Perhaps if the man had gotten his due clearance from the UK, they would have flown a long time ago. This fate would not have been their portion. But who are we to question God? And sometimes when we say these things, people think, it's if God doesn't will it, some of these things will not happen. And you cannot say, based on what Rista has indicated, with the world of experience, or with the wealth really of experience that the pilot, together with his co-pilots have, one cannot say, even though we don't have the reports yet, that they were negligent or they lost focus and things like that. And every time I say this, and whenever I'm flying, it's the danger really has to do with taking off and landing. When the plane is taking off, that is when you have to pray. If it is airborne and if it is flying, whatever, the likelihood of it falling down is very, very low. And when it is landing, that is also a dangerous moment. So usually when people are flying, that is the taking off and the landing are the two most crucial parts of flying. But again, nobody can explain some of these things. But one thing is for certain. I think my co-panelists pointed out to you that it appears Boeing is really creating a lot of mess. The one that happened in Kenya, where we lost a lot of some diplomats, should have sent a signal to them that, look, there's something wrong, and we ought to relook at all the planes that we have, to work on them, perhaps, because look, Charlie, if you are in the air, Charlie, if you are in the air, Master, you understand? Charlie, Look,
If you're in the sea, you can swim.
you can try and swim. If you're on the road, the likelihood that you will die is not really 100%. Sometimes, look, people get into serious accidents and they survive. But this one, the person who apparently survived had to jump out of the plane.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what we are learning. That a gentleman who was sitting at where the emergency exit. So well, that's what we are hearing. That when the plane was about, when he noticed, he had to just open it. It comes down a little bit before. So he was very fast. And the adrenaline just rushed, and he opened the thing and he escaped.
No one followed him.
But that is the thing. Look, when the thing is crashing, split seconds. Split seconds. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes impulse.
And you're all in your seatbelt.
You're all in your seatbelt. You don't have the presence of mind. You see, what distinguishes a survivor from a non-survivor is the presence of mind.
Yeah.
I'm sure if there were Africans in there, you'd have heard tongues. Hit it. You see, that's the thing. You understand?
Yeah.
So, these things you don't have control over them. We can only extend our heartfelt, condolences to the bereaved families, and in the hope that they will take comfort knowing that their loved ones lived a purposeful life, and that their journey was to come and better their lives, or perhaps to open doors and avenues for the family members. I wouldn't say much, but also to say that look, I have to travel, but now I'm even scared. I'll be very unnecessary. In fact, when the Kenyan thing happened, I stopped taking local flights. I said, hey, even if this one is crashing, then these are local flights.
No,
but they keep telling you
airlines, we really need to.
No, the domestic airlines. Some of you take it and you are in the thing and Charlie, the noise is shaking.
I doubt the airworthiness of some of the aircraft.
Yes. So Charlie, we don't have to trade with the lives
should be
of
prioritized, just as motor safety.
So if these ones are even crashing, these sophisticated ones are falling. The dry leaves there. So I think it's a caution to our air traffic regulators to be very, laser focused on ensuring that those aircrafts that are flying are compliant. They've been cleared to really fly. So that Charlie would also lose loved one. Now I have to go to Kumasi, I have to go to Tamale. Maybe I have to drive.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I have to drive.
But in the long run, you still travel outside the country. Or you ask Bresta to book a ship for you.
The outside one is what I'm still contemplating on.
Probably you do a.
But it's the will of God.
You go and come back.
We've heard stories of the Titanics and all that.
So
whether road, sea, or air, it's just by grace.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, and thank you for still watching and still being on this on the show with us. We're discussing the incidents that occurred in India yesterday, which resulted in about over 200 persons dying, and we're told that just one person survived. But if you have some comments on that, please do well to send them through the number that has been displayed on the screen. Someone sent an...
So those in the business class and first class.
When you're talking about the business class, I was going to ask you that. Is the debt treated as business class?
No segregation. So we end it on that note. But someone sent quite an interesting message here, and since Kwame Osudanso is here, I think he's in the best position to answer that. Percy says, good morning, Pan-African TV. Ghana is not Accra. It's only a presidential capital. You host only politicians to talk without the ordinary Ghanaians. Host the ordinary Ghanaians and let them talk to the politicians. Ordinary Ghanaians from the district levels live from Do.
No, I think that's a very important suggestion.
Yeah.
That's why on Pan-African television we have programs that cater to the needs of the ordinary. In fact, I don't like to use ordinary Ghanaian, to be honest.
Ghanaians.
Yeah, Ghanaians. The decision here is that, and I think everybody's a politician, whether he likes it or not. Sometimes, oh no, you are not a fisherman. There's politics in fishing. There's politics in academia. There's politics everywhere. And that is why sometimes, you know, people politically embark on strikes, and you know that this one is politically motivated. Politics is just how you view things, your ability or inability to view, you know, political actions in a certain light. You understand how you expect your leadership to deal or address your teething challenges. You know how you also hold leadership accountable. So we should not, and my advice also is that we should not leave politics at the doorstep of just 7th of December. You understand? Every 4 years. Politics goes beyond that. Once you elect a leader, you must hold the feet of that leader to the fire of accountability for the entire 4 years that you have asked them to govern. But in our part of the world, particularly in Ghana, after we vote for somebody, we sit aloof and allow them to do all manner of things, and 4 years we go back and vote for another person who will come and repeat the exact same things that, you know, they complain about. So until all of us get very interested in the politics of Ghana, in what defines our future, we will continue to send messages such as these. But, you know, even this message that you've sent, once it's been read by OHEMAA, it means that you've contributed. So if he had shared his thoughts on something, you would have read it, and that would have been a contribution to. Show, so we all have our roles to play in shaping our fortunes and in developing this country.
Right, absolutely. Well said, KOD. Thank you so much for that. And to you, who sends that message, just as you heard, you are also a politician. And I mean, whatever you send for us to read is also part of the contribution we all need as a people to develop our country and to shape our fortunes, as KOD said. Now, let's move on to our next topic for discussion, which has to do with Zoomlion. Now, we've heard the story and what's going on. We had hints from the YEA boss, Malik Basintale, and it is now here. It's been materialized now. The Bahamas cabinet ends Zoomlion's 1.3 billion waste management monopoly. Zoomlion is said to have had the longest government contract for over 20 years, and it has come to an abrupt end. What my thinking is, or my questions would be, does it change the sanitation, you know, our current sanitation state, and also is it that the contract is going to be given to another entity to run our sanitation management or to manage our sanitation, or it's going to be open for, you know, free procurement for people to send their tenders and stuff like that?
So maybe I should start.
Yes.
I am not a fan of Zoomlion.
Okay.
I've never been. Indeed, growing up in Ashanti region, Ashanti Mapo to be precise, I do remember we had what we call the town council. We used to call them tankers. And the mere sight of tankers would make you want to do things right. So if you knew that the front of your house was dirty, the frontage of your house was dirty, you would immediately sweep or weed or clean your gutters because you knew town council was coming. That's what we were introduced to. Now, when I grew up, then I noticed that there's something called, there was this introduction of Zoomlion. And the introduction of Zoomlion was to address another aspect of our sanitation deficiencies. Because the town council were unable to fully address the increasing, you know, demands in that space. And so the introduction of Zoomlion as an entity, you know, clothed with the authority to either support, I think that in the beginning was to support the sanitization deficit that we had in this country, was good, all right, even though I never really liked it, because I thought that that was the reason why a lot of people had reneged in terms of keeping their environments and communities clean, you know, because they thought that, and I remember, I don't know if you do, when somebody littered, they said, nase Zoomlion babe pra. You know, so people now became very recalcitrant, you know, and were not taking responsibilities for keeping their communities and environment clean. Okay, now Zoomlion's monopoly is born out of political relationships, right? That he knew how to, if you like, deal with all the political divides. But also providing service. The way rich people operate, they identify the lacunas that there exist in the system. They provide the solutions and then they make money out of it. Okay, I don't support government, to be honest, in this regard. The decision that government has taken, I'm sure I'll be the only heretic person defending Zoomlion, even though I don't like them. But I don't like government's posture. How government decided to abrogate the contract.
Okay.
I don't support it at all. If there were challenges, and indeed there were challenges, all right, in terms of payment, in terms of the delivery of service, I think that government could have engaged Zoomlion again on the matter and see how both of them could fashion out a plan that works. I am not interested in, I'm not for government collapsing local businesses, because you see what government has done right now is that government is going to collapse or has collapsed Zoomlion in a way in this country, and livelihoods will be affected. Because you see, even though we are complaining about the 200 Ghana cedis that they were being paid, there were several other people who were comfortable and still working for Zoomlion. So the question then becomes, now that we have done this, how are we going to make sure that those people are gainfully employed? Already, we have serious unemployment challenge in this country. All right, and Zoomlion, whether I like it or not, had taken an aspect of it out of the hands of government. So government would no longer deal with people who are unemployed in that regard. So I believe that in the spirit of togetherness, in the spirit of encouraging local businesses to thrive, government should have had a proper conversation with Zoomlion. Look at the negatives, look at the positives, juxtapose same, identify what can be done going forward in order that we can address the fundamental challenges that are confronting the workers who work for Zoomlion. And he came out to explain why the 200 and something Ghana cedis, out of the 800. And he indicated that it is not all the money that comes to the company. Some of the money went to other people. So if we are saying that it was woefully inadequate, the amount that we're paying to the workers, we could have had a discussion that, because of A, B, C, D, we expect you to do X, Y, Z. If your coverage of the coverage of service that you are providing, does not go beyond a certain periphery, we are saying that go beyond that, periphery, and make sure you provide a service that all Ghanaians can be excited about. I'm not happy at all. It's just like when MPP came into office and closed down the banks, ostensibly to sanitize the banking sector. We all know the troubles that it brought. And we all sat here on Pan-African television and condemned that singular act of closing down banks without justification. Clearly, this is symptomatic of what has happened in respect of Zoomlion's matter. Let nobody play the ostrich. And let nobody be hypocritical on this matter. What was not good yesterday should not be good today, because there has been change of government. Have a discussion. Look at what is wrong. Look at the scope of the scope of the mandate of Zoomlion. Is it, if the case is that Zoomlion has had monopoly and therefore we are going to give you, let's say, 60% of the work, the 40% that is left, we are going to spread it across so that we can get the full benefit of the service that we want as a nation. That would have been fair. But you say that you are terminating the contract in its entirety by reason of some investigation which was conducted by Manasseh Awuni, on the basis of which Manasseh petitioned the president and the president has taken this action. I think it's unfair. I genuinely think it is unfair. And, I'm not a hypocrite. I condemned quite vehemently the decision that was taken by the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration in relation to the closure of the banks. I condemned it. Indeed, when President Mahama won and was sworn in, I, together with a few friends of mine, we wanted to hold a press conference and impress upon the president, or prevail upon the president, to pardon the banks that were closed, because a lot of people lost their jobs. Many people died out of frustration. Many people, some of our young men who were very endearing, ended up doing all manner of things. Okay, and it is very detrimental to the forward march of this country. I don't support it at all. I don't support it. If I could have the ear of the president, I would tell him plainly, bluntly, without mincing words, that Mr. President, you have erred. And in this regard, you must go back to the table and have a relook at the decision that you have taken. Because you see, decisions, yes, in the interim, may look good in the eyes of those who are opposing, the continuing, if you like, monopoly of Zoomlion. In the interim, they may be very excited, you have pleased them, they are happy, etc., etc. But nobody has the benefit of knowing what will happen tomorrow. All of us sitting here, what is within our reach is just right now as we are seated here. In the next hour, you don't know what will happen. In the next minute, in the next 5 minutes, nobody knows what will happen. So today, right now, we will be excited. Oh, yes, government has done it. Oh, yeah, Manasseh has been posting on Twitter and all of that. I've seen it. But tomorrow, nobody has the benefit of tomorrow to come to a conclusion as to whether the decision I've taken today is something that is beneficial, for the forward march of this country. So I disagree with the President of the Republic of Ghana for taking this decision. I want to suggest, and I believe that it's not too late, that they should go back and engage him. Okay, look at where he has faulted. Look at how we can help resolve all the lingering matters, and see if you want to reduce the 100% monopoly, if you like, that you think he has, to about 60%. And the 40%, you can spread it across, so that other people can also get an opportunity, or get the opportunity to work and make an income for themselves. You understand? So with the greatest of respect to the President of Ghana, with the greatest of respect to the NDC government, I believe that, this decision was, in my humble, respectful opinion, was done, erroneously, and must be relooked at, and perhaps a better path forged for, domestic, local businesses to also find their feet.
Thank you very much, KOD. Let me come to you, Rista. Do you agree with Kwame on this score?
I think I wouldn't say I disagree, but I have a departure from his position. In the first place, let me just say this, that, you see, everybody who works deserves to work in some dignity. Yeah. And so, no matter what you do, there must be some dignity associated with your work. I must admit that Zoomlion brought some dignity to people who were doing cleaning and all of that, because we used not to give them that recognition. But it became more like a formalized employment when Zoomlion came in. And so you had that situation. I remember I was an assembly member when Oscar Provençal and others met, then the executive committee of the Metropolitan Assembly, when they were introducing the Zoomlion thing. So I know about the inception of Zoomlion way back in 2005, 2006, when I was an assembly member. So at least I have some understanding of where it started. But the dignity is beyond just putting those workers in uniform and making sure that they live properly. So Zoomlion has expanded. I remember when we went to Angola to watch the Ghana final, Ghana versus Egypt, in the African Cup of Nations. The final was played in Angola, and we went there to watch. And I saw Zoomlion was in charge of the sanitation at the stadium. So they were doing all the cleaning and all of that. So they've gone international. When you operate as an international organization, then you need to operate at a certain optimal level. And for me, the key thing is the dignity of the people who are working for you. How you pay them, what is available in terms of risk and all of that. Because if they are descending into drains, to clean drains and all of that, they are exposed to a lot of things. Yeah. So you need to look beyond just the small money you were paying them into their welfare. We traveled extensively. In a country like Japan, every graduate work as sanitary officers, and they do so with dignity. They are paid like any other worker in Japan. They drive their vehicles are so neat. They come, they take the waste, and then they go. In central room, I saw the people who were collecting waste at night, sometimes around 11, 12, and they were well dressed. They enjoyed what they were doing. Why would people enjoy what they do? They enjoy what they do when they know that there's dignity associated with what they are doing. So I feel sad when sometimes you get these Zoomlion workers, and even though the money is not enough, they are also not even paid early enough. And they tell you they work for an hour or they work for 2 hours. So let's compute it and pay them hourly.
Okay.
And see if what we pay them will be enough. And we have a minimum wage policy in this country. So if they are even working for an hour, is what we are giving them enough? And if the money goes somewhere, where does the money go? What role do those people play? For which, if you say you are paying people 800 Ghana cedis, or you are taking 800 Ghana cedis, which will not be enough, looking at the cost items, look at what you will need, and of course, some of the things you may not have to bring them every time, because if you bring cutlasses and all of that, you may bring one cutlass and may take 10 years. You may lose some of them eventually. You need to replace them. But why would you be deducting every month from the wages of the people who are working for you items like cutlasses, brooms, and all of that, and add them as cost item and pay them so little? That aside, sanitation is the responsibility of all of us. What Zoomlion was supposed to do was to do the main, the public sanitary activity. So Zoomlion is not supposed to clean my house. So that shouldn't take away the town council thing, the sanitary inspectors that had been employed by the assembly. That shouldn't take that away. The other issue is, what is the role of the assembly in supervising the work that Zoomlion was doing? Because you see, we have decentralized sanitation. The assemblies are basically responsible for sanitation. So, what is the role of the assembly? It looks like Zoomlion is bigger than the assemblies. Sometimes they have a role in who becomes the mayor because they want to work with people they are comfortable with. So, the assemblies themselves do not have a lot of authority to supervise what Zoomlion is doing. So you need to go back to the drawing board and look at how to decentralize sanitation properly. In that case, I feel that we should decentralize sanitation and give it back to the assemblies. Probably we could empower the assembly members and get them to employ people within their environs to take up the responsibility of cleaning and getting paid through a system that allows them to access and have improved wages. In that case, they don't need to come and clean 1 hour and go away, because assembly members' tenure is also tied to how those activities are undertaken. Because for a very long time, until probably this budget, assembly members were working more on voluntary basis. All they get is sitting allowance for attending assembly meetings. So if you empower them to work for the area they are in charge and probably pay them some contractual fee to employ some of the people who work with them to ensure that they clean their environment, and the assembly holds them accountable for what they do, you have a better accountability of what we spend our money on in terms of sanitation. Beyond that, Zoomlion was supposed to do among other things, waste segregation. We have a country where our waste management is a mess. Zoomlion or no Zoomlion. Because even in the schools, we've not been able to introduce waste segregation. In schools, which are supposed to be organized institutions, in churches, even at the ministries, we cannot introduce waste segregation. We don't have landfills anymore. People who take their waste to Pong, which we used to call landfill, Pong is no longer a landfill. I've seen, because basically it's been capped. And what landfills are supposed to be doing was to be reclaiming land that have been lost as a result of winning sand or rocks. But Pong is complete, and it is so unhealthy for the people who are living around Pong for us to continually dump waste close to their community. So one sure way of dealing with this situation, I saw one in Rhode Island where they have a landfill around the area and they have a waste segregation system, and they were taking a lot of plastic waste. Because we still can't manage plastic. And as a fisherman, I get worried. The quantum of plastic that fishermen land every day in their nets. Zoomlion started Zoil, which was supposed to be cleaning our beaches. And what happened? Because, you see, we don't supervise what they do very well. So we need to be able to decentralize properly. Nobody is saying take everything from them, but they need to compete within the system and show what they will be able to do, where their strengths are. Because they have a compost site that is supposed to be producing compost, and they are supposed to be taking the sewer. And it's a challenge. One of the main Tema pumping station is suffering because even the area where the pumping station is, around the Nwa Farms area, is becoming a developed area, and that is becoming a challenge. So even in Tema that is planned, liquid waste management is becoming a problem. So we need to sit as a country, look at waste management, because waste is wealth. It depends on how you manage it. Waste is wealth. So until we begin to think and make the waste the wealth that is supposed to be, we will continue to be exploited. Because for me, it is a major exploitation. We need to correct the system. If they have to even get in, they must get into a system that had been properly designed so that nobody takes us for granted. We have Zoomlion, they've worked. Ghana is still a very dirty place. You drive around town and you see our drains, you look at our water bodies, and it's sad. I keep saying this, that Ghana is the only country where I see that all our drains and household water waste are directed into one natural water body or the other. So all the areas around La and Peshi areas, all their drains are directed to the Peshi Lagoon. The Koli, all the waste in Accra are directed into the Koli Lagoon. That's supposed to be a natural water body. In Tema, look at what's happening to the Sakumo. Look at what's happening to the Chemu close to Newtown. All the industrial waste go through the Chemu Lagoon. Now, because we have expanded the industrial setting into Pong towards the Wenya, the waste load, the municipal and then the industrial waste load are directed into the Lalo and the lagoons around Pong, and it's going. And we are still not thinking that we are destroying what God has given to us. Because you see, when you build upstream, you begin to destroy your natural water body unless you manage your waste properly. And we are not doing that. So we need to have a clear plan as to how we are going to manage both our liquid and solid wastes And when we are able to do that, and we have a plan, and some people want to be part of the waste management as a private entity, they will not take people for granted, and they will not pretend to be working and pretend to be paying the people. Well, President Kufuor said that the workers pretend to be working, and the state pretend to be paying them. We need to move away from that pretense into real work that will clean our environment, and we need to put that responsibility on the assembly. So that Zoomlion may go to the assembly, get contracts from the assembly, get the assembly to supervise. So the monies that are supposed to be paid to Zoomlion would have to pay to them through the assembly, when the assembly is sure that they've done their work, and they give them the certificate and pay them.
Thank you very much for that. Let me come to you, Dr. Ramsey, on this one, then we can move on to our next topic.
OHEMAA, I've listened to both revered colleagues and panelists on this subject matter. Waste is indeed wealth, and I quite remember my experience in Australia and Singapore, especially Singapore. Singapore is not just clean for a reason, right? Their local governance system is really doing a lot to mitigate the issues of pollution, environmental pollution. Unfortunately, over the years in Ghana, our local governance system has failed to meet up to the expectations of the citizens in terms of waste management. And all the arguments from both panelists are legitimate. Kwame has tackled the economic debate, the impact of the cancellation of Zoomlion's contract on the livelihoods of some Ghanaians who, rely on Zoomlion for their daily bread, right? My brother Manche has also touched on several aspects. Some economical debate in regards to the remuneration of the workers of Zoomlion and how it can be improved, and talking about also some form of further devolution in our local governance system and decentralization in terms of our waste management. I think that charity begins at home, and I like the fact that he posited on the fact that our education, right, in terms of waste segregation has failed in our country. And, you know, in Ghana, even at homes, we mix dry and wet waste together, and even botanical waste, right? But in other developed countries, you realize that every bin has its color, right? And every waste goes to a particular bin. But we fail to inculcate that in the day-to-day life of our people. And I quite remember when I was doing my research on the role of corporate environmentalism in safeguarding Ghana's green agenda. It was quite significant how even the corporate bodies also contribute to pollution in this country, right? And it is a challenge for us as a people, and the costs associated to our environmental pollution. I mean, he made mention of a very important landmark, which is our beachfront and all that. OHEMAA, have you lately been to Labadi Beach?
No.
You've not been to Labadi Beach?
No, I don't remember the last time I've been there.
I don't think if the fishermen go on the sea in La today, I think part of their catch, I'm sure 50% of what they'll see in the net is rubber and styrofoam.
Plastics, yeah.
And that is why I want to use this platform to commend President Mahama for his bold step to ban the use of styrofoam in our food packaging in this country. I think that it will go a long way to solve the issue with pollution, because, yes, the Zoomlion contract, there has been some reports that government cannot really verify whether Zoomlion indeed has its set amount of sweepers on the street. It said that Zoomlion has employed about 45,000 sweepers, right? And there's a contract clause in there where I feel that the SWA government, deliberately or not, I think it has to be investigated, delayed in payments to Zoomlion and paid interest on the contract sum of a tune of 90 million Ghana cedis. I'm not sure, Kwame, have you heard about that? Interest payments, you understand, due to default of the obligation. And I believe that this money could have been used for something great in this country, right? And the fact that Zoomlion has become a monopoly over the years is not something that we should really look at it as a threat, right? We should be proud that indeed a Ghanaian company has grown into this level. And the fact that they're even going internationally, as I monitored the airwaves the other time, Zoomlion is currently in Nigeria. They've signed a contract with the Kano local government, right, to be able to help them with their sanitation issue. And so, yes, there's a need for competitive bidding when it comes to our waste management. I believe that Zoomlion being that big and the government cancelling their contract, they can focus on other aspects of the waste management chain and leave the sweeping and collection, right, to small SMEs within the various districts to compete and then receive such contracts through the local governance system. Okay. I believe that there should be enhanced devolution when it comes to our local governance system. And I think that the assemblies can also invest in waste recycling plants in a way to generate some form of IGF, right? Because we produce a lot of plastic waste and we don't use it for anything. I remember there was a Filipino company sometime back in 2019 which had a project. It was about $2.5 billion in valuation, and they seek to build a thermal power plant which was going to dwell on the waste that we produce, right, especially plastic waste. And they would, through that project, this plastic waste would produce some form of oil which will be used in our cars. I don't know how far this project has gone through our government's system, but what I can say is that we need to support institutions and academia in terms of research and development as, in our waste management system. Another aspect, Kwame, is the mindset of we Ghanaians. We need to change our mindset. When I went to Singapore, I didn't see a single pin on the floor. And this is a deliberate policy intervention by the government and also the behavior of the citizens in Singapore. I mean, in Ghana, we just tend to do anything we want. You see people throwing rubbers, I mean, polluting out of their vehicles, rubbish out of their vehicles and all that.
Feces.
Even feces, yes. Open defecation is not new in this country, right? Which is a public health threat. And so I believe that if we are also able to, I mean, change our mindset and our behavior as Ghanaians, as far as our waste management is concerned, we will be able to save government a lot of money. Okay. Charity begins at home. Okay. And I believe that this education starts in our homes and furthermore in our churches and our mosques and, of course, our shrines.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramsey, and thank you, gentlemen, for your...
A contract.
Right.
It's not a bad thing. Reviewing a contract for service, it's not a bad thing. People are saying, oh, but monopoly, why 60%, why 40%? As we speak today, they have the logistics. Government partnering with the private sector to provide a service, it's not a bad thing. If we're talking about, for instance, what Richard is talking about in terms of their remuneration, and we have a challenge with that, we can always renegotiate. Okay. Why cancel or terminate the agreement in its entirety. What is it in the agreement that we can...
The agreement has actually not been renewed, so the agreement has come to an
No,
end.
I agree with you.
Yeah, the terms of the agreement has been exhausted.
Fantastic. But I am saying that the question, you see, it's not just about the government's, inability to renew. Government can renew.
Yeah, government can renew, but they have decided not to.
Brilliant. But the question is why? You understand? Because people have raised concerns about, first of all, the remuneration, as indicated by, Mr. Amafiu, right? And also other reasons stipulated, by Manasseh Awuni Azuri.
But Kwame, do you think Zoomlion has done a good job when it comes to sanitation?
I am saying that, but
for the past 20 years.
But which government? The government of Ghana. Which government of Ghana has done a good job?
Well, that's a very good question. But then in terms of this specific area or mandates that they've been given to manage Ghana's sanitation, look at Ghana now. When it comes to our sanitation status, it is nothing to write home about.
When it comes to agriculture, there's nothing to write. In fact, fishing, he himself, he knows. It isn't. The ministry is nothing to write home about. When it comes to education, there's nothing to write home about. All the state institutions, what is there to write home about? What substantive thing have they done to address the teething challenges that the people are faced with? What have they done? Yet we still go out and vote for government, having hope, having the belief. We have this conviction that some way, somehow, things will be better. All I'm saying is that if you are not yourself a pious man, don't brand somebody, a non-pious person, for which reason you would say that I will not. I'm telling you, I'm not particularly excited about how Zoomlion, has done its business in Ghana, and I stated it. And I'm not going to depart from that position. My position is clear. However, what I'm saying is this, OHEMAA, we are in a country where it appears that people's success frustrates people. So we know that, Zoomlion is, and recently he was named as one of the richest people in Africa. And I'm sure somebody sitting somewhere so people, I don't have evidence to that effect, but I know Ghanaians and I know how we think. All right? So I'm saying that if there are real challenges, let's deal with the challenges rather than not, failing to renew the contract. Right now, Zoomlion as an entity could have been, government could have found a way, especially this new administration. This new administration is trying to better the lives of the Ghanaian people, right? And they have come with a reset agenda. We could have reset Zoomlion. We could have said that, look, come, let's sit down. Let's review the agreement. What is in the agreement that does not favor the good people of this country? Okay, what services are you providing that we think you have to either increase or, include? I don't know if you get my point.
I do. I agree with you
100%,
but I'm also looking at it from another perspective to say that perhaps this is government's way to say, okay, thank you very much. We appreciate what you've been doing for over 20 years. So you sit down and let's give another person a chance, another local enterprise a chance.
That is why I argue that looking at how far Zoomlion has come, right? In the value chain of the waste management system of Ghana, they can take, I would say, the most industrious one and look at recycling, right? Which government can then go into the negotiation table with them and then leave the collection and segregation to the assemblies.
But it comes back to review. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying.
We have to build businesses.
What has happened is that government has not renewed an expired contract.
That is what I'm saying. That's what.
He doesn't cancel an existing contract.
And he hasn't also cancelled an existing contract.
But what I'm saying is not in relation to whether or not government.
So the issue is.
I am saying that what led to that decision by government.
The issue is, so if I renew the contract in the state in which it is, what I'm saying is that continue. If I don't renew the contract, you could go back to a drawing board and redevelop your strategy and come back with a new contract for us to look at.
Okay.
Government has not
let me
said,
tell you something.
Government has not said that going forward they are not working with Zoomlion.
But I think that is clear. That's what
what I'm saying is this.
I have a contract
hold on. That I feel is not favorable.
Hold on.
And I said I'm not
the
renewing
decision not to renew came after the report.
Absolutely. That is what it is. That is what it is.
Social media.
And I'm saying that.
And we got hints from the YEA.
Malik has said that he was not going to renew the contract
because of
the state in which it was.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
in the state in which it was.
But also that those stories there after the investigative journalism
Manasseh's report has been there long before.
Master,
now,
what I'm saying is this. Let's be Ghanaians first. What I'm saying is not a complete departure from what you are saying. We are saying the same things, right? But what I am saying is that if we cannot renew the contract in the state in which it is, okay, contracts are always varied. Contracts are always varied. Okay, there are variations to contracts. So we are saying that, okay, this is the contract that you have. We do not want to terminate entirely our agreement or contract with you. However, come sit down. Let's look at the existing contract.
Termination.
Oh, that, okay, no, they do not want to renew. Okay, let me use the exact way. We do not want to renew government of Ghana's contract with you by reason of A, B, C, D. On the basis of that,
of course, government cannot just say I don't want to renew.
They have to justify.
Just like
so on the basis of that, come let's sit down. Let's look at the portions of that agreement. For which reason, I'm not sure government is entirely unhappy with the contract, in entirety. So look at the specific provisions in the agreement.
Why don't we give government and Zoomlion the benefit of doubt? That government is not impressed with the current state of the contract, so I'm not renewing it. Government want to do many other things, including probably empowering the assemblies, because now the assembly is getting more of their common funds than they were getting previously. Probably government would say some aspects of the job that is available to you based on the contract, we want to send them to that so that we get the assemblies to do some of the things. So we are looking at the entire waste management regime.
But I think it still comes down to
but somebody need to work that one out and know which aspects would go to the assemblies and which aspect will be available for a central management arrangement. You get it? You cannot just review the existing contract without looking at the entire waste management value chain and then do the needful. So for now, it is a contract that has not been renewed. The contract has ended, it's not been renewed.
Which is giving way forward.
But nobody has been given that contract.
Okay.
For you to say,
there's a publication, hold on, there's a publication by My Joe Online, okay? 12th of June, 2025. Zoomlion contract will not be renewed. Sweepers fees to increase. Zoomlion contract, listen, so I'm reading the statement in full. Zoomlion contract
who was
will not...
to read it to?
President Mahama.
Okay.
Zoomlion contract will not be renewed. Sweepers fees to increase. So even from the headline, it tells you that government had a challenge with the remuneration of the sweepers. Not so. Okay. The President, John Dramani Mahama, has stated that government will not renew the 19-year-old contract between Youth Employment Agency and Zoomlion Ghana. The President has also said that the government will increase the fees to be paid to sweepers arising from the probate cost savings from discontinuing the Zoomlion contract. The President announced this in a letter to investigative journalist Manasseh Azuri Awinu, who petitioned him to discontinue the Zoomlion contract, detailing with evidence corruption and mismanagement under the contract. Okay, so it tells you that government on its own would not have not renewed the agreement. But for the petition that was sent,
but for somebody being a citizen,
Master, say it now, citizens. The president
the corruption aspect has to be investigated.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. Hold on. So, but the president letter dated so 11th June 2025 and signed by the secretary to the president, Dr. Callistus Mahama. The president acknowledges the serious concerns raised in your letter in response as follows: expiration of contract. The Zoomlion, the contract between YEA and Zoomlion Ghana Limited has expired and will not be renewed. The letter also addressed some issues Manasseh raised in his petition about Zoomlion's contract, including poultry fees paid to sweepers and other sanitation contracts in Ghana, over which Zoomlion almost enjoys an absolute monopoly. So the first one is in relation to payments that are made to sweepers. The second one is in relation to so-called monopoly that there is.
There is issue of corruption.
Manasseh, whose investigation first reviewed corruption in Zoomlion contract in 2013, has spent the last 12 years advocating blah blah blah. Okay, said was untouchable. So under the terms of the YE Zoomlion contract, 850 Ghana cedis was allocated to each sweeper. Zoomlion keeps 600 and pays the sweepers 250 a month, according to the contract, right? Zoomlion also charges interest if YE delays in paying the company for 3 months. In 2024, the company charged an interest of 90 million Ghana cedis. So it is not the fault of Zoomlion that government has defaulted in payment. If government has defaulted in payment, of course, every contract, once there's an agreement,
which is enshrined in the contract, in terms of the
so
contract.
if government fails to pay within the agreed time, and there are consequences for that, there should be consequences for that. So is it the fault of Zoomlion that government failed to pay?
No,
that's number two. Zoomlion revealed that its latest proposal was under discussion at the YE. In this proposal, Zoomlion wants the allocation per sweeper to be raised to 1,308, so that Zoomlion will take 888 and give the sweepers 420 Ghana cedis a month. YE has no data to verify the 45,000 sweepers Zoomlion presents for payment every month. Even after raising an alarm in 2018, the YE stated that its head count showed 38,884 sweepers were on the ground, contradicting Zoomlion's claim of 45,000 Ghana cedis. This can be investigated.
Yeah, so
this can be investigated.
So you cannot renew the contract in that state when you have issues of corruption and all of that coming up. And you've not investigated them to find out what was happening.
What is a contract? What is a contract? A contract is an agreement between parties. Okay, and validated, so that it would have a legal effect. That is what it is. So what I'm saying is this: that contained in the contract are these terms. The terms are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H.
So in that contract, you told me you pay 45,000. I did a head count and you're paying 38,000. You get it? Because you see, you may have employed 45,000, but people may have died. Some people may have been too old to continue working. There must be a deliberate policy that takes out all those people from your list.
I don't have a problem with that. That's brilliant. Yes.
That's what I'm saying. That so you may have the contract, and you say, look, I'm not renewing the contract because of A, B, C, D. I need to investigate and get those things cleared. Because when we investigate and there are issues of fraud, you know that the contract is no longer valid.
Right.
But fraud vitiates our contract.
Let me chip this in, Kwame. You see, over the years, since the inception of our Fourth Republic, we've had leaders that are not visionary and don't think, right? No, it's a fact. OHEMAA, as my brother did reiterate, waste is wealth, right? In signing a contract with the YE, in terms of this sanitation contract, right? I would have thought that government would then create an enabling policy giving Zoomlion some form of fiscal incentive for them to go towards the industrial aspect of waste management and then be robust when it comes to recycling of metal waste, plastic waste, and also generate some revenue to be able to support these sweepers.
But that should have been a proposition from the Zoomlion.
And even government, and even government,
bringing such a proposal.
And even government in creating that policy framework. For example, the 1D1F policy was a policy created by government and presented to the private sector, right? And then that influenced investors to come on board to be able to enjoy such incentives and also promote social and economic development, right? That stimuli was not there, and I can tell you that this is as a result of failed leadership and failed people that don't have the vision.
If we had the entire time, we can exhaust the Zoomlion topic, but let's wrap it up with the nurses' demands. Recently, the nurses went on strike, and they have resumed work. They've called off the strike and they've started work. So as a stand, the conditions haven't been met yet, but they have got.
They should stay.
But the committee the select committee on health in Parliament sat down with the GRNMA
let me,
and also the wages and salaries committee to have a conversation.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
My father, God bless his soul,
Amen,
served this country for over 40 years as a police officer. When they started serving this nation, they were paid a pittance. My father never for once complained. He lived, worked, served, and died in Ghana because he believed in Ghana. Very patriotic to the Ghana agenda. Anybody who offers some special service, okay, must treat the country with respect, must treat the citizenry with love and with compassion. Because it is not everybody who is called to provide that service. All of us, you see, me as I sit here right now, I fear blood. When I see blood, then I'm running away. It's not my calling. I can't do it.
Then you fear money.
Money is blood money.
No, even when I'm taking injection, I get scared.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Similarly, I am scared of height. I can't fly. Similarly, I'm scared to shoot a weapon. So I can't join the police or the military. I can't. What it means is that is not my calling. There's nothing you can do that can convince me that I can be a military officer. I can't do it. So there are people with special talent, okay, who can offer those services. It's a privilege. You should be proud that amongst the very many Ghanaians, you have that special power, that special talent to provide that service, okay, to the good people of this country. Why are we reducing these services to mere partisan politics? And I'll describe it as such. Partisan politics, OHEMAA. Because you see, I'm a barracks boy. I lived in the barracks. I grew up in Asante Mampong, Mayanka, Zongo, barracks. I grew up in ACHIAA, barracks. And if you knew the conditions that these police officers are living in, and yet every day they wake up, okay, wear their uniforms, stand under the hot sun to protect you and I, you would be very upset when people embark on strike actions, not because their salaries have delayed, but because they are asking for additional conditions of service. OHEMAA, go to Burma camp and look at the conditions under which our military officers live. I have friends who live in Burma camp. I have friends that I attended senior high school with who are military officers, and I visit them. Do you know the conditions in which they live? Do you know the conditions in which our teachers live? Go to Samla Boy. Go to ACHIAA. It is now that it is better. Do you know how our teachers struggle? Do you know how? And yet somehow our teachers are providing their service to the development of this country. If police people were allowed to embark on strike, if military people were allowed to embark on strike, if customs could go on strike, what would happen to this country? Because they all have issues. You think that they are happy with their salaries? Today, how much is rent? Some police officers are renting. Some police officers are renting. How much is rent in Ghana today? How much is their salary?
Right.
How much are they paid? No, OHEMAA, please. Please. I am not saying that if you are entitled to something, you cannot get it. What makes yours so special to the police officer who protects our lives every single day? People have died because of the insensitivity, that some of these nurses have shown. What is it? What is it that you cannot ask your leadership to engage government whilst you still work? What is it? So the lives which have been lost, now that they are having the discussions with the leadership, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, will they be able to bring back those lives? Ultimately, it would have come to a conversation between the leadership of GRNMA and government of Ghana. Ultimately, that would have happened.
It seems like this was...
Why are you holding government to ransom? You see, you are fighting with government.
Yeah.
But the sufferers, the people who are going to suffer for the singular decision that you have taken, are the people of Ghana, not the government, not the president or the ministers.
Yeah,
so we are the sufferers.
Yeah.
So you are using us, the citizens of this country, as a bait to negotiate with government. How insensitive is that? How insensitive is that? All of us have issues in this country. You think we are all happy?
We're not.
You think we are? How much are you paid? Or you sitting there? How much are you paid? Are you happy?
I'm at all.
Well, have you embarked on any strike action?
Not yet. Family. Yeah, let's by the way. But in this issue, it was the leadership of the GRNMA.
The leadership of the GRA, I am saying that couldn't they have engaged government?
Yes.
Couldn't they have done that?
That was what they were expected to do.
Was there any need to embark on a strike action?
Exactly. That's what Ghanaians are talking about.
Yeah, but that is what it is.
They should have sat down with government rather than asking their members to go on a strike.
But what was the motive behind asking people to go on strike? Master, lives have been lost too. There's a video that I saw. I wept.
Yeah.
The young lady said somebody just got married 3 months ago. The guy has serious asthma.
Asthma, yeah.
Went to the hospital because the asthma was uncontrollable. When nobody attended to them, the gentleman died.
He's dead, yeah.
Are you happy? You don't have family members.
Right.
What is this?
Kwame, we all do share in your sentiments. We do.
Master, look, Mama just came to office. He just how many months? 5 or 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
You expect President Mahama to immediately go and do juju and bring money into the country to come and pay you? We have to make sure that things are done properly. We have to, because you see, what it is that it's a bait. If JRNMA, their demands are met with immediacy, then the labor union that met government, you remember when President Mahama, they will come back again and say, well, if you have met their demand, it means that there's money. Then very soon you see TUC will also come. Very soon then this one will also come. How do we stabilize the country? You don't have food. Okay, you are hungry. You don't have food. And you say that I'm hungry, I don't have food, I'm going to rob. Master, what is that?
Yeah. Let's wrap it up. Rista, please kindly give your 2 cents on it. And then
I understand Kwame's sentiment. And I share the same sentiment because, when you see people dying when it is preventable, it's not the best. But you see, we, as a country, we are failing our people. And people are getting more agitated because of the lifestyle politicians also live. People believe, because my mom retired as a teacher.
No teacher struggling in this country.
And all that she got was less than 32,000 Ghana cedis for 31 years of active service. You get it? That was what she got for a pension. That was somebody's allowance for a month. Some people are getting clothing allowance, gardener's allowance, and all of that. So, as much as I'm not too happy with what happened, I feel we need to look at some of those British-made allowances that we have lived with till now. Because British then secretaries were paying their gardeners, they were paying their house help, they were getting clothing allowances. We should be able to take all those things out of the allowances and privileges that politicians and chief executive officers and others enjoy. Because if you are paying people below what they are supposed to earn, and nurses are not getting the opportunity to even have free health care in the facility that they work in, then why should a politician get free health care in probably Legon or even out of the country? So I am not happy, but I feel that we set a lifestyle for politicians and some class of Ghanaians that is making it difficult for persons who have remained in their profession to continue to remain loyal in their profession. Because they feel that, why is it that everybody wants to run to go to parliament?
Please wrap up for us, Mr.
Is it? No, so to me, you see, I'm not able to talk because all of the things that happened, the death and all of that, is not a pleasant feeling.
Yeah.
But we need to sit as a country and ask ourselves, why do we have the animal farm situation? When we all said 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, and now some people are saying we can sleep on bed sheets.
Yeah.
Let's begin to now question some of the benefits that politicians are getting, and our dependence on the politician must also reduce. In order that we can all know that we need to pay everybody fairly, and allow people go about their costs and deal with their costs, rather than give them all the privilege, some people all the privileges that they want, and some people will work all their life and not earn anything.
Right. Thank you. Dr. Ramsey, please wrap up for us. We just have a few minutes to run.
For all the political actors in our political landscape, they should be wary of trying to politically influence organized labor all the time to favor their political expediency. OHEMAA, last year during the climax of the elections, we saw some political actors align themselves with various organized labor to favor their political agenda. This is today biting. But Kwame has raised some important sentiments which I share with him, but I have to also put on the record that all nurses, midwives, in fact, healthcare personnel working within this jurisdiction, Ghana, are highly stoical, and they have been patient for far too long. OHEMAA, medical doctors, I'll put it on record. You finish your house job. OHEMAA, you go to school for 6 good years. You finish your house job. Your mother who sells kokonte in the village, who would suffer and cook and sell and take you to medical school and pay your school fees and collectively with the family. And then you work for 8 months and you don't even receive a single allowance, not even a salary. Does that make sense?
For your house job.
For your house job. Does that make sense?
That's equal to or is likened to national service.
I'm telling you.
And you are not paid for that.
You're not paid for that. And it's a donkey job. Go and ask all the house officers there. It's a donkey job. The consultants do not even have time to even sit because they are there consulting between their private locum and then the public one. But the house officers there are the ones who are receiving most of the cases and I mean, under pressure. I mean, the nurses, I would like to thank the leadership of GRNMA for taking this bold step to go back to work in this dilapidated condition that has been bedeviled by our healthcare sector. But I would also plead with government. Kwame said that President Mahama is a new president. Kwame, I and you fought the duopoly. That is why we joined the movement for change, Kwame. Absolutely. That for 32 years, my brother here and Yanum have failed the people of Ghana to provide adequate healthcare infrastructure adequate working condition for our healthcare personnel. Kwame, that is why today there is a huge exodus of our nurses and doctors out of this country. Today, as I talk to you, Kwame, the nurse to patient ratio in this country is 1 nurse is 1,450 patients.
It's lack of patriotism. Lack of patriotism. Those countries that we are going to, their democracies are over 200 years.
Kwame,
you just get independence.
Kwame,
you take a time for us to build the country.
Kwame, you see, there are some basic things. There are some
you think we are all happy here?
No, we are not happy.
Exactly. You are medical doctor. Have you left?
Kwame, there are some fundamental issues.
You are medical doctor.
There are some fundamental issues that we need to tackle.
Massa.
Kwame, there are some fundamental issues that government ought to tackle. And it's been 32 years. And there are some basic issues that are... Look, you're talking about somebody dying from asphyxia due to asthma. Do you know that in certain hospitals, right, government fails to provide oxygen?
Yeah, so those conversations must be had.
Right.
But it's been far too long.
Yes.
It's been far too long. It's been far too long.
If you're embarking on a strike action because the tools that you need to use to work are
let us not politicize this issue. I mean, the patriotic argument is something that is legitimate. But I would like to call on government, the Honorable Minister Kobna Mita Kando, right? He should tighten his boots. Right. He should tighten his boots, honestly speaking. Because, look,
all
the
of you are coming.
Health sector personnel.
Right,
thank you very much. And let me take this message from Stephen Peng. He says, good morning, OHEMAA. The Zoomlion contract was a drain to the nation. So much was paid to the company and very little was given to the cleaner. A paltry 250 Ghana cedis, which is not enough for an average meal for a family of 3. Kyodi, the decision is the best for Ghana and so must it be. The various assemblies should take charge and the MMDCEs will bear the brunt for the insanitary conditions of their jurisdictions. OHEMAA, okay, after the President has already given the indication that such MMDCs will be fired. Stephen Peng, wow. All right, let me do this last one. He says, I would like to appeal to nurses to reconsider their actions, just to let you know that they are back at post and they started working. In fact, what they are demanding from the government is too much. The government came to power for how many months now? They should kindly consider the situation and go back to work. They have. Thank you very much for that submission. Unfortunately, we couldn't do all the messages, but we are privileged and honored to have had these great minds seated here this morning to share their thoughts and share with us their wisdom. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramsey, for being here today. Thank you, Rich Star, for being here today as well. And to KOD, thank you so much. We are grateful for your time, and to you for always choosing us to start your day right, bring you in-depth and insightful, also thought-provoking analysis here on the show. Thank you so much. I'm OHEMAA AGYEKUM. It's Friday. We kickstart the weekend. Have a good one.